All right, folks. Welcome back to the last closing session of this two-day summit. We're very happy to be here with you. I'm Sigrid Wright, the CEO of the Community Environmental Council, and I am with my friend Louise Bedsworth here from UC Berkeley. And we are going to provide a few reflections and then bring this to a close and let you get on with your weekends. So we thought we would start by just reframing or regrounding ourselves in how we started today. And we asked a question in our very first session this morning about who all was with us, who was joining us. And if I could see the very first slide, please, we would put out a poll, and I want to share with you the results of that. So that's the first slide, please. Thank you. So we had a great blend of folks. About a quarter of the folks joining us were from academia, about a quarter from local government, about a quarter from nonprofit, and about a quarter from private industry or other. So it was a pretty balanced group. And we came in with the question asking to what degree are communities talking about climate resilience beyond just emergency response? So to what degree are we really thinking mid to long range in terms of the planning? And if I could see that we put up what we were calling a continuum about the stages of readiness. And we asked, where are you at in this? Have you started yet? Sorry, not quite there. Have you started yet? Are you aware of the problem? Have you done some vulnerability planning? Are you at the point where you actually have developed strategies and you're starting to prioritize projects? Are you implementing? Or are you already at the point where you're doing monitoring and evaluation and doing adaptive management? So we asked that question in a poll, and now, yes, please, next slide. And this is what we heard back. So also fairly eclectic or balanced, I guess, response, but there are a number of folks, like maybe the majority of folks, who are at the point where they have done they know what their vulnerabilities are. They have done some strategy development. They're starting to prioritize projects. But again, this group joining us today was, really much along the spectrum here. We knew with that continuum that we had presented, by the way, that this is a fluid process. So these are not locked stages. So we talked a bit about that. Many folks, myself included, our organization, our community, might be working on multiple parts of that continuum at once. And then we asked, what challenges are you facing in advancing the work? And if I could see the next slide, please. That came back not surprising. Half of the folks responding to this said funding is the biggest challenge. So again, not surprising, especially at this moment that we're in with disruptions in federal funding. But we did also hear, a little over a quarter of the respondents said, actually, my biggest challenge is we don't have the structure. That's what priorities and governance means. We don't have the structure, or the work just hasn't been prioritized. And then some folks were saying, I don't have the partnerships. So that is how we started the day. And then Luis is going to talk here about some of the conversations that took place after the morning session.
Great, thank you. Yes, so I have tried to distill down a few themes that I have heard throughout the day, and sort of carry this into where we hope to see this work going. And I think I want to also do expectation setting, which of course, like coming out of this, we're not going to have all of the answers. And I think we probably have more questions than we did going in. But our hope is that this really can help to catalyze a lot of partnership and deep thinking and new ideas and creative ideas for how we're moving into this implementation phase on adaptation and resilience. So I want to share a few themes that emerged to me over the course of the day, and please forgive me for them probably not being as articulate as they should, but just sort of gathering from the many, many notes that I took. There will be a summary that comes out from today and yesterday, from these last 2 days, and so hopefully they will be more eloquently stated there. But I think one thing that stood out to me is in one of the sessions this afternoon, where David Ackerley was talking about natural systems and resilience, which is, of course, where the concept emerges from ecological literature. And he said, systems change a lot, and there's no option for standing still, right? And so that's where we are. Systems are changing, and we can't stand still. And sometimes we are being forced to move a little bit faster than others. And so I think we're in one of those times. Oh, and I should say we have two poll questions that we're hoping you all would also weigh in on your reflections. And so I think those will pop up and stay up for a while because they're open-ended, and would love for any thoughts and ideas that you all have in there so we can be sure to reflect those in the outputs. So one thing I think that is very clear from this last 2 days, and I don't think is surprising, is that the concept of resilience and building resilience, it needs to be done in a local context, and it has to be done in a way that reflects local needs, priorities, challenges, strengths, and opportunities. And we've seen this in so many ways and in so many spaces, the power of a locally defined, locally determined solution and the impact that that can have, not just on the problem that it is designed to address, but beyond that. And I think we heard examples, of how investments in capacity building are able to meet a challenge that emerges. So in the context of COVID-19, where we've been able to see certain challenges or certain coalitions who were created for one purpose pivot to be able to respond in another. And so this idea of really building some local capacity, empowering communities, and really allowing some level of self-determination is incredibly important. And I think figuring out how we balance that moving forward with more coordinated top-down types of approaches as well will be really, really critical. Another theme that emerged to me was really around language. I think broadly speaking, just sort of how do we talk about the concept of resilience? And I think Natalie Hernandez in a session this morning talked about how much she had learned and going around and defining resilience in partnership with communities. And so what does that look like and what does it mean? I think is also really important. And I think in a later session this afternoon, Linda Rudolph raised the fact that people don't live in sectors, people live in communities. And so we have to figure out how we design solutions that have language that can be shared and can work across and among and with people. And so that idea of sort of building this common language, and Michael Anderson talked about it as well, as sort of the power of when you find that common language and an ability to communicate across sectors or across different groups, what a transformative impact that can have. There was obviously a lot of discussion also around sort of tools and resources to help do this work, and the power of capacity building and how bits of capacity building and technical assistance can really go a long way, and the impact of civic education and programs like AmeriCorps and Conservation Corps to be able to add capacity while also building a new generation of leaders and doing this work. I think another really important piece, of course, coming in yesterday especially, was the power of youth voices and hearing younger generations articulate the challenge, the need, and the potential solutions. And then I think today at lunch, we heard also from Governor Brown talking about we need the K-12 schools. We need, this is an all hands moment, and we need this all generations, and we need all parts of our system addressing this. And so how do we make sure that children are learning about this in school and designing solutions? Big one, of course, is the funding piece, and this is always a challenge. If you ever ask, and I worked in government for a long time, what's a challenge? It's money. But I think one thing one piece I took away was when the potential power of climate resilience districts to help us address some of these issues. But it sounded like, and Jonathan asked this question, why aren't we seeing them everywhere? We have to get a lot of these other pieces of the story right. How are we showing the impact of success and making that strong case for climate resilience districts? So I'll just wrap up with a few things. So where I look at where we are today and who was in the room, One, I think it's very, very clear, and I think it always has been, but the power of subnational governments is critically important. And um, I have worked on climate policy in California for over 20 years, and we have ping-ponged back and forth between supportive federal government and not supportive federal government. We are clearly in a not supportive phase, and we are in a phase where there's a lot of destruction happening around the ability whether federal government will rebound in a timely way from this. And so I think that now more than ever, doubling down on the important role of states, cities, counties, regional agencies, et cetera, to do this work and show what we can do is critically important. But I think even more than that, extending to the private sector and other partners in doing this work is going to be critically important. We heard from Governor Brown and Commissioner Lara about the insurance industry, the banking industry, and so I think really, as we're really thinking about these next steps, thinking about that ecosystem and how are we really meaningfully pulling those teams together to make an impact, I think will be critically important. So I know I'm going to turn it over to Sigrid, who's going to also just sort of reflect on the day. And I think, or sorry, on the 2 days. But I think more than anything, my hope is that leaving from these last 2 days, people feel a sense of hope and determination to keep doing this work. It's hard work. It's never been easy work. And so I was in a meeting earlier this year, and someone just said, like, we just need mojo. We just need to keep lifting each other up and supporting each other and doing all this work. And so hopefully coming out of this, that's what we can do. Sigrid.
That's exactly what I want to pick up on. Thank you, Louise. And I just, again, as Louise just said, I want to recognize that the work is really challenging, right? And we're all deeply invested in it. It's emotional. And also, many of us are going through this climate crisis personally. Well, all of us are going through it personally and in real time. Yesterday, in a session in the morning, I asked a poll question about how many attendees have had firsthand experience or frontline experience with the climate crisis, asking, have you been in immediate physical danger from a climate disaster, such as a wildfire or an extreme storm or extreme heat event? Or have you supported a close family or family member or a friend? Or have you supported constituents or colleagues? And over 2/3 of the respondents, of the 100 plus respondents, over 2/3 said yes. So I want to just acknowledge that's what we're coming in with. We're coming in with anxieties and concerns and also determination. This is not an academic exercise. So particularly this afternoon, Louise and I and the team that was leading the breakouts talked about, what are your strategies? What are your strategies when you feel a sense of overwhelm, or there's, there is this kind of sense of everything everywhere all at once, so much need and so little time. So what are the strategies for that? And I want to repeat a couple that I heard. One really great one is just to start with where you're at. Start where you're at. And even though we showed you this kind of continuum that kind of outlines where we hope to get to, start with where you're at. And today, in the last session or earlier session, Shalini was talking about looking for opportunities to solve many things at once. Many of us don't have the luxury to deal with just one thing at a time. So we're looking for things that can solve for more than one thing at once. Engaging community can actually bring strength. And we talked quite a bit about that in this afternoon, about how to celebrate our wins and celebrate each other as a community. And then a really important one is just know who to call, who is on your speed dial. We're hoping that this was the beginning of starting to meet some new folks and put people in your contact list. And then I'm going to just close by saying, thinking creatively. I shared a quote yesterday by Adrienne Marie Brown that reads, imagination is a muscle that will atrophy if we don't use it, especially under the pressure of constant fear. Fear and imagination can't be in the same room. They're two different qualities. They require two different things from us. And so I'm choosing to lean in on imagination. So we're going to close with that. Secretary Crowfoot quoted actually Katharine Hayhoe yesterday, climate activist yesterday, maintain hope by taking action. And I think that's what I'm going to leave us with. Thank you. We're asking folks to, are you sharing back the poll here? Louise?
Oh, okay. Great. Well, yeah, thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. I know we have one last session where we will hear from the co-chairs of this larger effort, Ram Ramanathan and Sam Asefa and Deborah Gorman. So I hope everyone will stick around for that. And we will be following up with all of the materials over the last 2 days. And as I said, written summaries to share this. And we really encourage folks to continue engaging in the lobby chat as well, that we will be capturing that information as we pull together the reflections and next steps from this event. So thank you all.
All right, thank you.